Welcome back to American Agenda. After 246 days in captivity, the Israel Defense Forces have rescued 4 hostages taken by Hamas terrorists at the Nova Music Festival on October 7th. They are Noah Argamani, Almog Mir, Andrei Sokolov, and Shlomi Ziv.
The hostages were rescued from 2 separate locations in Gaza, and they were reunited with their families on Saturday. So let's bring in someone now who was part of that delegation that went to Israel to meet with the top leaders, including Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, to work on the hostage situation. We bring in foreign policy expert and Grand Marshal of the Israel Day Parade right here in New York City, Harley Lippman. Harley, good to see you. Thanks for coming in.
See you too. My pleasure.
So bring us up to speed and your thoughts on getting these hostages home. But could more be done? I feel like more could be done.
It could be. But, you know, when the Vice President Kamala Harris was complaining about all the innocent Palestinians that were killed, yes, of course it's a tragedy that any innocent civilians are killed. But who's responsible for that? Hamas kidnapped these poor people at a peace music festival and then put them with civilians. And in that part of the world, everybody knows each other's business. So these civilians are not exactly innocent. It's hard to believe that for 8 months they didn't know that this girl was being held hostage there.
It's incredible. And you know, we're learning just today that it's possible that President Biden may negotiate separately with Hamas for U.S. hostages. There are still 5 Americans being held hostage in Gaza. Now, that would be if the current ceasefire negotiations fail. What do you make of that? I mean, all I think about as an American is we don't negotiate with hostages, but our president might very well do that.
Well, it's problematic. I mean, this is why we have this problem. You know, Israel released 1,000 Palestinian prisoners, among them Sinwar, who led this massacre in Israel, who's head of Hamas there. So, yeah, you can't negotiate with terrorists because they'll just do it again and again. But what's interesting is the Palestinians said that there were nearly 300 civilian deaths, and the Associated Press came out and said that that data is not backed up with the information that they have, which shows that they're exaggerating the number of deaths there. But again, Hamas is responsible. They are putting these hostages, and you know, you have Egypt who complained and said they complained in the most strongest terms that Israel would do this. How dare Israel try to rescue their own citizens? Who wouldn't do that? What country wouldn't try to rescue their own people?
Every country.
But we haven't done that yet.
Right, that's right. We should.
To my
That's
next
true.
question.
Yeah.
We were just discussing this. When I think about the whole situation at hand, and especially recently, President Biden has been spoken out about how he's been involved with the ceasefire negotiations and the need to bring these people home. He's the president of the United States, the most powerful country in the world. Couldn't he do more? Couldn't he call up Yahya Sinwar and say, hey, you're releasing these people, the Americans and the Israelis, we're ending this thing? Couldn't he do that?
Well, what he could certainly do is stand by America's friend and ally Israel and don't undermine Israel. Let them win the war, then you'll have peace. That's the only way you're going to have resolution here. You'll have peace with victory.
I also want to get your thoughts as the Grand Marshal of the Israel Day Parade here in New York. We know the parade dates back to 1964, but this year had a very different feeling with many of the families, including the ones you helped bring over. Was the parade being able to bring awareness to the hostage situation? And also wonderful news here in New York City, the parade was completely safe. There were no activities, no dangerous terrorist activities, which was a concern, I know, of the NYPD. Tell us about how this year was different and maybe, I don't know, more important than other years or just different?
It was extraordinarily safe. People who went to the parade went through a screening process, which never happened before, like you're going to an airport. So the New York City police did a fabulous job. They didn't even have vendors there, which was a problem because we were dying of thirst. It was so hot, you couldn't even get water or anything. But it was a very, very meaningful, probably the most meaningful that we've ever had, because this was all about the hostages, giving them emotional support that they needed. These are broken people. Can you imagine that they have a 1-year-old child there that's being held hostage?
No.
They have a grandmother there. I mean, they're not letting them out. I mean, can you imagine 8 months and they have women there, and God knows what's going on with them. Who knows what's being done to them? So these people are broken, these families. They came here. We want to support them, and we want the world to not forget that these are innocent people being held hostage there. And what starts in Israel won't end in Israel. It'll end up being everywhere, and even sadly, hopefully not, but on our shores. So we have to stand up for civilization and support Israel and defeat these terrorists. And the Israel Day Parade this year was a very, very moving event, spending time with these hostage families. You know, I didn't stop crying for 2 days. It's just so hard to hear these people feeling so helpless for 8 months. They don't know what's happening to the people they love.
Well, let's hope to God by this time next year, the parade next year, we're talking about them and celebrating them being home.
Absolutely. That'd be a great event.
Okay, Harley Lippman, good to see you.
Good to
Thanks,
see you
Harley.
too. Thank you.
All right, well, we have some big news here at Newsmax.